Welcome to Inside City Hall. I'm your host, Mayor Daryl Seymore, and our guests today are Pastor Tom Brown, Pastor Steve Heckathorn, and President Steve Williams. Welcome, gentlemen.
Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Good to be here.
Good to have you here today. You know, we just are finishing up here the community fast for compassion. Last night we had our celebration at the high school, and just want to get kind of your thoughts, your feelings a little bit about how this year's fast went in the community and how you felt it was embraced. Let's just start with you, Pastor Steve Heckathorn.
Well, I was, again, to have this the third year of the fast and then to have our second year of our celebration, just from our local level in our church locally here, to have the participation of our church family again, they were excited to be a part of that. But what I see in the community is not just churches stepping in, but community members just stepping in and understanding this is bigger than the churches, it's community. And to have the whole community begin to participate in this. The thing that is unique for me in this fast is to have the mayor, yourself, Mayor, and the city council involved in this at a level that really without your support would be difficult for us to have this thing just become what it's become in the community. And this year they had the addition of the the Shoal School District get involved. That was a huge aspect of this thing gaining momentum and traction in the community. So I'm excited to see it growing, and it's becoming something that's relevant in the community and more people are participating in.
Thank you. Pastor Brown.
I think Pastor Steve said something very important last night at the celebration, that this is about community. And you defined the word community as two words, common and unity. And that, I think, is one of the most important things that's happened through this fast of compassion, is that we've seen our community come together in a new way. And we've come together for the right reasons, because we care about each other. Mm-hmm. And we care about those who are in need. And the testimonies that were given in the celebration reminded us of how much good has been done by the gifts that have been given. And certainly the helping organizations have been very grateful to receive these gifts and be distributors for them. And everything that was given to the Fast of Compassion is given away. There's no overhead, there's no administration costs or anything. We're all volunteers, and so all of these gifts have gone to help people. And that's the community.
That's great. President Williams.
You know, the thing that I love about the fast is it gives people an opportunity to build on common ground. And we have a lot in common here in the community, regardless of faith or what your background is. And to me, the community fast seems to be expanding every year. There seems to be more people that are aware of it, more people that are involved. Your support, your leadership, and the city councils has been really key. The school board for the first year supported it, which was really important. So I think the number of people that are participating in the fast and aware of it expand every year, which is great. I know this year, as far as contributions, we're right on track. In fact, it looks like we're going to surpass even last year's contributions, so we're growing every year. One of the highlights for me is the celebration, and where we come together and to hear some of the stories of how the funds were used from people. So that's a real highlight, to hear how those funds were used.
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that I enjoyed most last night as well. The youth groups, the singing, the different family members that were there participating and singing in church groups. I think you shared with us that there were somewhere 13 or 14 different community organizations, whether they be faith-based or just other individuals who participated and got involved in this as a group and organization. It was fantastic. And that doesn't take in place the banks and the city and all of those other organizations. Allegra, the people who helped donate marketing measures, the media, people like that. So when we start looking at the number of people that get involved to make this happen, let alone the community members who contribute and donate, it's growing more and more, and it's bigger. You know, I was talking recently with a friend of mine up in Utah, and I shared this idea with him. I've shared it with some people in the valley as well, and they go, wow, that is just fantastic. I was at a conference with some mayors, and I kind of shared what we do as our community up here, and they're just, how do you do that? How do you make that happen? But it's people like yourselves that have come out and shared with your congregation, shared with the different faith-based groups, and like you say, we build upon the thing that we have, common amongst ourselves, and I think that's the Savior and the compassion that he had for other people, and we are to do that on a regular basis, and I think that's fantastic. What do you want to do different? What do you want to change, or what do you see? Where do you see this going maybe next year?
Well, one of the things that I think that we would like to do, just as part of the committee that is involved in directing this, is get more businesses involved. And so one of the things we're going to work on in the next year is how to communicate with businesses, what we're doing, how they can get involved, and just the process of bringing them in as businesses. The reality is this is a 501c3 tax exempt, so you can get tax credit for this. And so for businesses at year end that have to give money or may need to get money for a tax break, we need to educate businesses about the possibility of joining in on this and the side benefit they get from that. So that's one of the things I want to work on as a committee member, of explaining to businesses and educating them what possibly is in it, not just for the process of joining this, but is there something that would help my business as far as along as a tax break?
Right.
So I want to educate businesses along those lines, Mayor.
Okay.
I think it's important for us to spread the word on how the funds were used. I think when people realize that how their funds are used and how they really bless individuals' lives, I think it makes a difference. Last night at the celebration, Stephanie Player, the former director of the Safe House, was able to stand up and talk about some of the women that are in abusive relationships that come to the Safe House with their children, that don't feel good about themselves, that don't have a good outlook on life, that really are lacking hope. And monies go to provide gifts for them over the holidays, basic things, coats and clothing, and also some things to help the women feel good about themselves. And I thought that was really touching. I know there was a couple of principals that spoke as well, and Principal Hall, I think, shared a few things that were really touching. He talked about a letter that one of the students at Nicholas Homestead had written to him. He'd gotten a new pair of shoes. It was the first new pair of shoes he'd ever gotten because of contributions from the fast, and he wrote the principal and thanked him. Another student wrote a letter to the principal thanking them for the new clothes they got, and I think they said, "I look good."
Right.
And it made them feel good about themselves and confident. And those sorts of stories are touching. I think when people know exactly how their money is being used and spent, I think it's inspiring to people and makes them want to participate.
That's great. Pastor Brown.
Well, the thing that's always impressed me, being part of the Christian Community Outreach, is that the people we help pretty much are in crisis. And they're not bad people. They're people who have missed a paycheck. Maybe they were living with relatives. They got kicked out. They've had problems. Their car's broken down, whatever. And they just don't have the resources to respond. So a lot of the gifts that we have received as a helping organization go to sustaining people and bringing them back to a level where they can operate. If you don't have any place to live, you're in big trouble. If your car isn't working, you can't get to work. So it's the long haul. There's a wonderful time of helping during Thanksgiving and Christmas because there are special needs at that time. But the long haul is that all through the year, there are people who are coming up against hard times, and they need help, these helping organizations in our community, to be able to bring them back to an even level so they can sustain themselves. That's what I see.
Great. Share with me, some of our listeners today may not really understand what the community fast is or what the principle is and how people donate and why they're donating. Who would like to kind of touch on that?
Well, I think I've thought a lot about this, and my brothers here have talked about things we want to change in the fast and make better. And one of the things I want to change is educate people. Because when you talk about fasting, I don't think most people understand what that's about. And in the context of the faith-based community, we understand it as prayer and fasting. Because you're not just giving up eating, as kind of a academic exercise. You're giving up eating so that you can spend time praying. and the two go together. And I always rejoice when I see the congressional chamber, and written over the back of the chamber is our national motto, "In God we trust."
Mm-hmm.
And that encourages me, and it should encourage our community too, that we're not just fasting, we're praying and fasting, and that has special meaning because we are spiritual creatures. And all of us, whether we're attached to a church or not, have spiritual needs. And that's what I'd like to do, is see that strengthened.
You know, one of the things that I look back at it, you know, we're able to raise the funds that we do through 1 month of fasting. What would happen if we kept those banks and kept that open, whereas people through the
True.
year could realize that at any time or any month, or get in the habit of a regular basis, if we raise 10,000 in 1 month, what could we do in 10 months or 11 months or 12 months? The significant difference that could be if it became a year-long fast as well on a monthly basis for people. And so that's kind of the neat part of bringing people together. What you can do as you're a group, you can definitely do more than you can as an individual.
Mm-hmm.
Real briefly here, we're about out of time, but share just each of you how your churches, you get people to come and participate at the celebration. You had a youth group, you had different individuals singing, but how do you get them to come and be on stage?
Well, in the LDS Church, this is a really neat thing. Members of the LDS faith are really excited about this. Yesterday at the celebration, we had youth. We invited 12 to 18 to sing. And anyone that wanted to could, and we had, I think, about 50 youth that came and sang in it. There was about 500 people total at the celebration from all different churches and from the community. We simply announce it at church, and people talk about it, and it spreads by word of mouth, and they talk about it with neighbors, and they love it. So from the LDS perspective, we love this, and we love building friendships with members of other churches and members of the community. We love it. It's inspiring to us.
That's great.
Well, one of the things that we've looked at in our fellowship, Mayor, is Living Faith is there's a very serious feeling that our nation is headed the wrong direction. And there's places in Scripture that talk about prayer and fasting and the correction that can do in a nation. And so when we originally got involved with this, we had just most of our congregation, they're very patriotic. And this is a process where we look at this and understand we as a church, what can we do, but collectively, what could we do with other churches to impact this nation? And so we look at it at a national and a state and a city situation that we know we can do more together than we can by ourselves. And so our church has jumped into this and said, let's work together, because we feel that if we don't stand together, we will fall apart.
Right.
Because we feel there's an attack on faith-based churches and beliefs in this nation. So we want to partner with other churches and stand with other churches and say, hey, let's stand together and let's have concern for our nation, our state, and even our cities.
That's great.
Well, the fast is really a reflection of a greater principle. Not only New Hope Christian Fellowship, but our other sister churches and other faith-based organizations in the community are getting a common revelation. And this is the revelation, that we go back and learn again to love God and love our neighbors ourselves. And that, I hear that revelation, Mayor, throughout the whole faith-based community. We're getting that impression. Well, how did Jesus tell us to love others? To go out and serve them, to care for them, to encourage them, to feed them, to comfort them. That's what our church has been impressed with. And I've actually been, I shouldn't be surprised, but I've been surprised to hear the same thing coming from the rest of the community. So it is a revelation that we're receiving.
That's great. Well, I appreciate you being here today. I appreciate what you do in the community and the Fast for Compassion. May we have a great Thanksgiving. May we have a wonderful Christmas.
Yes.
And may we remember the purpose that we've done this. And I appreciate serving with each of you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Likewise.
Thank you, Mayor. Wonderful
Thank
to
you.
be here.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Stay tuned for the next segment of Inside City Hall, where we will have our next guest. Welcome back to Inside City Hall. Our next guest joined with us is Brian Savage, the fire chief from Timber Mesa Fire and Medical. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you, Mayor.
Glad to have you with us today. You know, it's been about a year since the merger has been complete of the fire districts up here. Why don't you just kind of share with us the significance of this merger and how the first year has gone?
Okay, good. It has been a year, and it's been an exciting year. Timber Mesa became official on September 19th of 2014. And when we started that process, we had made a whole bunch of predictions, promises, if you will, about the service delivery and the money that we would save and those kind of things. And I'm proud to report at this point that we've delivered on those promises. In our financial projections, we had estimated a $2 million annual savings to the taxpayers of the region, and we realized that. The three independent districts were spending about $10.3 million on service prior to merger, and this year we'll spend about $8.3 million. So we're right at that $2 million savings.
That's fantastic. And one of the things that you have happening right now, you're getting close to having a new building for your service and things out here. Tell us a little bit about that building, why you chose that site. It's great to have you buying a building that was vacated by another business, and it keeps somebody in that building.
Sure.
So share with us why you chose that particular site.
Well, when we merged, we understand we have a fleet services department that works on all of our fire apparatus, and we understood that the facility that they were in at our Station 15 in downtown Sholo was not sufficient for them. So we were actually out looking for a property to build a fleet maintenance facility. And had we found that, buying the land and building the building, it would have cost us at least as much as we spent on buying an existing building that actually suited us even better. So that property is about 11 acres, just shy of 11 acres. It had a fleet maintenance facility already on site, so that was move-in ready for us, and we've already moved our fleet department in there. In addition to that, it had a very large main office building with an attached warehouse to it, and it's going to serve us very well as a warehouse to store all of our supplies and materials and be able to distribute those to the stations. Rather than buying them one at a time, we can buy in bulk. There's significant savings there. And again, that overall property was as inexpensive as it would have been to have built just a freestanding fleet maintenance facility had we gone that route. And this will serve us much better.
That's fantastic. A lot of people have looked at that building and they've said, why is the fire department moving so far out of town? And because they think that we're going to have fire station trucks and everything there, but that's not the case of the use of that building. It's strictly for service.
Right. That's our administrative and support services building, and that's all that'll be there. If we have a fire station up there, which we already do, at the airport, we have a fire station that services the airport property itself, and then we also have the ability to grow in there and expand to provide structural firefighting out of the other side of the building, if you will.
That's great. With this merger came some increased benefits to some of the areas that merged, particularly Linden. What was one of the main things that Linden was able to gain as a result of the merger?
I think greater staffing, and with that comes paramedic services. Linden Fire District prior to merger had struggled to maintain paramedics on every shift every day to provide ALS service to that community. And since merger, we've been able to provide that to them 24/7, 365. So that's one benefit to them. Our training programs are vastly more, we're vastly more well equipped to provide training to our firefighters now, so it's a better equipped and trained group that is stationed there. Their tax rate in Linden went from $325 to $284. That's the combined tax rate of all three this year. And that's pretty much it for that community.
That is very big, though. When anytime you can increase service and give the people also a tax cut, I think you're doing what's really most important to do, is make it a little more safer community. Share with us a little bit the training. You talk about we can have better training now that we are merged together, right. And share with us why we're able to get better training up there.
Fire department is a very labor-intensive effort. It's a very costly effort, and providing quality training to our employees is something that we really weren't able to do as independent agencies prior to merger. We all struggled to provide appropriate training to our firefighters. It's important that people understand that we not only fight fire, but about 80 to 85% of what we do is medical services. We also provide hazmat services, technical rescue, We're getting into weapons of mass destruction. There are all kinds of things that we are an all-risk service provider. And so we've got a responsibility to train our people in each one of those kind of categories of our job. Historically, again, the independent, smaller agencies weren't able to do that all that well. Now, today, in a combined budget, we can bring some of the very best instructors from around the state or even around the country up to this area. We can host the training here, provide it to more firefighters at a time, and we can bring in firefighters from around the state, which is a little bit of an economic driver for the community as well.
Oh, that's fantastic. You know, we got Old Man Winter approaching here, and
Sure.
things change in people's homes. What are some of the things that you would like to share that maybe they need to be aware of with winter coming, and some of the different risks and things that to protect their homes and to protect maybe their driving and their lives a little better?
There are several things that people can do around their homes to keep them safe during the winter months, but first and foremost, and this is any time of the year, make sure that you have a working smoke detector, make sure that the batteries are functioning. That is a key and critical life-saving device in every home. Beyond that, be careful with your heating appliances. If you have space heaters, make sure they can't be tipped over, make sure that there aren't flammables or combustible materials stored by them. Make sure that your chimneys are swept, that they're clean. We just had a chimney fire last night, in fact, and that's just that's a real important thing to do before you fire it up for the first time in the season, is to make sure that it's cleaned out and ready for use. Driving conditions are going to deteriorate as the weather remains cold and we see more moisture come in. We're going to have icy roads, and just caution everybody to be very careful about how they drive.
You know, it's amazing those little tips that you have. Even if you've been into a home, we have a lot of secondary homes up here, and some people will come up even in the winter months and they haven't had their furnace going, and you have to be careful that furnace is properly ventilated and it's properly working. I remember a few years ago up in Pine Top, there was a family of 3 or 4 people that were asphyxiated by, and it didn't turn out well for them as a result of just strictly carbon monoxide that built up in that home. The chimney fires, the fires that we have all year long, and there's those Christmas trees, with the Christmas season coming and the things that we have to look out for. It's amazing how fast a Christmas tree can ignite and be completely an inferno in a home. What's the statistics on that?
I don't have any statistics readily available there, but live Christmas trees, if they're not kept moist, are an extraordinary hazard in a house, and they do burn very quickly. There's a video out there, pretty common video, you've seen it on the news or elsewhere, that shows a Christmas tree igniting, and then how quickly that fire consumes the entire room, and it's really staggering how quickly it moves.
It's faster than you would even imagine.
Absolutely.
I take that from experience of starting one once outside, and I go, well, let's see how fast this thing really burns.
And they do.
I mean, they do extremely fast there. How's been the sentiment of the other communities, the firefighters themselves with this merger? Has it been a morale builder for the firefighters?
I would be kidding you if I told you it was easy from the start. Firefighters are a very proud bunch, and I am extraordinarily blessed to lead a wonderful group of people. They have come together better than I might have guessed or might have imagined, but not without its challenges. Three fire department cultures coming together. You can bet there's going to be some well, hey, we do it better than you do it type of sentiment going on there. But I think we've survived most of that. We've gotten to the other side of most of that, and now we're deep into the process of establishing how Timber Mesa does it.
That's fantastic. What's one of the main changes that you will incorporate that Timber Mesa is doing maybe different than what either of those individual fire departments did?
Well, we're early on right now, but I would suggest to you that, again, our training programs are probably the most significant internal change that we've made in just providing top quality training for our folks. The other of those, as we move forward, is going to be our medical programs. We want to extend our right now in the fire service across the planet, really, around the globe. There is a greater emphasis on preventative care, if you will, kind of related to the healthcare industry, that we get out in front of things, and that's called community risk reduction in the fire department. So we have a community risk manager whose job it is to identify those risks that are most common to our community, and then to establish programs to try to get in front of those so that you never have to call 911. We address that with you before it's a problem, and address that risk early on so that you don't have to dial 911 and rely on us for emergency services.
Well, that's fantastic. Tell me, with Summit Healthcare, with their building their facility a little larger, a little higher, are we sufficient with our ladder trucks and things in that area? I know that's been a question, and how high up can we go?
Right. Right now, we've got a 100-foot aerial platform, which won't reach the roof of the hospital. But that being said, hospitals are built as very safe facilities. They're built not to burn. They're built to provide protection to their customers while they're there. Our intent in a firefight there is not necessarily to gain access to the roof by way of a ladder truck. It's to protect people in place in that hardened facility, and to only evacuate those who are most closely affiliated with the fire incident.
That's great. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us today that we haven't kind of talked about?
No, I thank you for having me, and I do want to applaud your leadership in a recent joint council meeting here. The cooperative efforts across the region and across the mountain are refreshing to see.
Well, we appreciate it. We appreciate you coming together and making this work. The Timber Mesa Fire Medical, it's been fantastic for our community, and the savings that you've been able to do. And it's one of those other things that regionally, as we continue to merge things that need to be merged, you're a great example that it can be done at a cost savings, and we appreciate it too.
Thank you.
Thanks for being with us today.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us on Inside City Hall today. If you have questions you'd like answered here on the show, give us a call at 532-4061. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.